Hey everybody, Andrew here. Today we are going to be talking to you about auditing your HubSpot portal, and I'm so excited to do it. It's something I never feel like I know enough about, and something I hope we can deliver to everyone in the audience in an accessible and super practical way. Today, I am joined by Alex, who also feels very passionately about doing actionable audits that give options and reflects considerations and condensing them really into how businesses should actually be thinking about implementing audits themselves.
That's right. Hi, everybody. I'm Alex, and I've worked with hundreds of businesses over the past years and really trying to figure out, quickly and efficiently, where is our time best spent to get more results and better results out of HubSpot.
Nice. Awesome. Well, let's jump right in then, Alex. Could you just tell us a little bit more about the insight and experience that you've gained over the time around taking the pulse from HubSpot accounts?
Of course. Yeah. I think before starting this conversation, the thing that really comes to mind for me is that it's important to really have a good pulse and understanding of the business priorities and what your business is looking to accomplish. If you're in more of a leadership position, then you might already have some of that. That's great. If you're not in a leadership position, if you're more sort of responsible for a smaller part of marketing or sales, it's still important to really make sure you're aligned with your decision makers and your stakeholders at your business, because those business priorities are going to be the lens with which you look at your HubSpot account to identify the things that you want to then focus on coming out of this audit.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So, well, then help us go a little further, understanding this concept of a HubSpot audit. What exactly do you see as being a part of the auditing for a HubSpot account?
Great question, Andrew. I see a few things. I see one, reviewing your HubSpot account and usage while keeping your business goals in mind. Two, going through the key tools in your account to see whether they are under leveraged and there are opportunities there, or if you're using them appropriately. Three, checking some logistical things like subscriptions and notifications, users. And then the last part really is walking away with some actionable steps that you can do, ideally with an understanding of the time frame or the amount of work that it would take to accomplish those things too. So that's what I see. And Andrew, I know you've done a lot of auditing work with businesses using HubSpot as well. What goals do you like to have?
My typical goals from an audit. I feel like I'm totally aligned with what you mentioned. One of the biggest things is understanding the tools that they're currently using, understanding the tools better, identifying the tools that are not being leveraged as highly as they could be, and then always thinking about what are those best next steps to move companies and organizations closer to their goals. That's a couple of the high level things that I seem to take away.
Nice. I dig it.
Yeah. Oh, another way I see it though, an audit, right? It's like checking the oil of your car, but you also give it a car wash. You make sure the spare tire is inflated. But then you find out that the backseat cup holder is broken, right? Meaning you check the big things, you check your four corners, but you also get a chance to see small overlooked issues or opportunities, right?
Totally. Yeah, and like with that in mind, let's talk about why you would even do an audit. I think this is something that comes up too. Things that come to mind for me, if you're new to the company or the role that you're in, you're inheriting a HubSpot account, it's a great reason to do an audit. If there's been a pivot in the company strategy, that also would be a good reason to do a HubSpot audit. If you've got a new product offering or a new target market, that would be another good reason. Or simply if you just haven't done one in a while, it's good to clean the cobwebs out a little bit, peek behind the curtain on a few things that are going and running in your account. Yeah, what do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I think it's a highly overlooked piece with the HubSpot portal that people are saying, when should I do an audit? Anytime is the right time. But a couple markers that I always find that say, hey, ding, 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 now is a good time to do an audit. Growth goals. When the team says things have changed, we are focusing on X, Y, or Z. That's when you need to say, well, does the portal align with those goals? What are the tool sets being used or not to align with it? Same thing with team updates. Turnover is a big deal. When someone's using the tool or someone's not using it, who's using it? That's when you need to say, how is it being used? Same thing with saying, oh, how are my leads? Where is the tracking? Are these tons of leads coming in? Are they qualifying? What's that process like? If you don't know, if you're saying, I don't know how many leads, that's a great indicator that you need a portal audit. There could be also other data issues, leaks in data, where you say, how much is my ad spend turning into customers or blog views? What are those blogs doing? et cetera, et cetera, you're looking for any of those issues with data or leaks, now's the time to plug them with a portal audit. And then, of course, obviously, I like to have teams think about instilling a quarterly or a biennial cadence to really keep things moving forward with very measurable and marked kind of moments in time where you can say from audit X to audit Y, what has changed, what have we done, and then keep moving that forward.
100%, Andrew. Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, we're humans and we forget to do the things that make us successful sometimes because we just get roped into so many other things. And so having that cadence, I think, can be really important. And along with that cadence, it kind of naturally brings up to who should be involved within an organization during an auditing process, or like who should champion this audit. I think it's worth keeping in mind some of the different business units that potentially or probably should have a stake in your HubSpot account with you, especially if you're a marketer. So I like to mention this as well. A couple of the things that I like folks to keep in mind is like, all right, you want to make sure there's alignment with your leadership team or your CEO to make sure that the high level business strategies or objectives you have are actually, you're doing stuff that's pointing in the right direction there. You're doing stuff that's aligned with them. From a CFO or like a financial perspective, oftentimes is a question of like, is the data that we're getting out of the system reliable and can be reliably used into other business calculations that we have from a revenue perspective or elsewhere, et cetera. From a marketing perspective or growth perspective, are we growing our business at the correct rate? Sales usually looks at, are we hitting revenue goals? From an operational perspective, if you've got revenue ops or sales ops or marketing ops, are we improving our efficiency operationally and paying attention to things like productivity per rep, indicators that we're getting more efficient as a business as we scale? And then from a customer service or customer success perspective, what's our experience like that we're delivering as we get bigger as well? So some of those different hats or lenses you want to put on, and the folks that you want to make sure maybe you just get an update on their quarterly goals or their annual goals, so that as you're evaluating what you're doing in HubSpot, you've got those different stakeholders to keep in mind and solve for within the platform.
That's super cool. And I think about one piece of an audit and how it ties back to a CEO or a CFO or a marketer's goals and the Venn diagram of how they all kind of overlap and lead towards an organization's growth strategy or growth goal, saying if we want to grow by X amount of customers, all those different things for all those different stakeholders could come together, and this portal audit can kind of be that vehicle that aligns everyone, which seems pretty cool.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's great. Well, so now we've talked about what an audit is and when you should do one and who are the stakeholders involved, but I'd like to dig into what you actually do or what we actually examine when doing an audit. So a few basic audit things that I always kind of look at, subscription level, tools used versus tools that could be used. You go straight to the CRM, look at contacts, companies, and deals. You zoom out a little bit, look at the marketing strategy overall. And then, of course, kind of MQL and SQL qualifying criteria. But Alex, what else do you look at in the HubSpot account that you think gets overlooked from an audit perspective?
Yeah, things that I see get overlooked. Who's signed up to receive notifications about certain things, whether that's reports or lead revisit notifications, or form submissions, always worth checking. Which users have admin or super admin access that need to be removed, maybe an employee left the company. Just making sure that stuff is really clean. Most of the time it's not a big deal, but every once in a while it's a huge deal if one of those things hasn't been updated. Workflows, always worth taking a look at. Sometimes there's hundreds of workflows that have just kind of started collecting dust, and it's good to revisit them. Traffic analytics, I think is a good one to start with too. Do you have an SEO strategy? Is it documented in HubSpot? Does it live outside of HubSpot? And then data cleanliness and property usage. Are you using the key properties for the business that you guys need to be able to track your marketing and sales in HubSpot? How many of your contacts or companies or deals have those properties actually filled out? Is there discrepancies in how they've been used? Always worth revisiting that data too, because especially as companies get a little bit bigger, the data can really start to get out of hand and get unreliable. And that just makes making data-driven decisions impossible.
Yeah, I see that happening so many times where you have a set of properties for a certain period of time, and then the goals change or the target market changes, and then you need to have a whole new set of custom properties. And with these portal audits, you say, well, why are these 10 properties still in existence that aren't being used? So a lot of really cool insights that you can derive from that, Alex. And I totally agree that each of those that you mentioned to not overlook are highly valuable. So that's awesome. All right. Well, now since we have so many different companies, so many different teams, so many different industries in our bigger community, I'd like to kind of just discuss what you see that makes you think differently or take a different approach or tact when it comes to doing an audit. In my mind, a few examples could be, say, company size. You know, smaller companies look at different things versus larger companies. Another thing could be focus and goals, right? If we're trying to do conversion metrics or conversion optimization or inbound or outbound. The third thing I kind of think about is industry base upon leads behavior, meaning some will all come from LinkedIn and others will all come from the phone and become leads. So what are your thoughts there, Alex?
Yeah, I think that the other angle that I'd keep in consideration is the resources that you have available. Are you a team of one? Are you a team of 5 or 10? If you're a small team and you're just trying to pull out a few key things to focus on, trying to do more than that or come up with like a 300 line item checklist of stuff that you need to do is probably going to be overwhelming and result in most of that not getting done. So smaller team, pull out some really key takeaways. You can always do this again, revisit this, but don't try and create a whole mountain of work for yourself. That will just be demoralizing and you won't get as much of it done. Team of 10 though, or team of 20 or whatever it is, you could be very, very tactical and generate a large list of work to then assign out and tackle with due dates and to be really diligent about that delegation. So think of your resources as well when you're coming up with the direction that you want to take with this audit and what you're going to be taking away from it.
Yeah. Well, so much going on with this audit, Alex. How do you know what to go to work on like right now versus what to keep in that Q2 or Q3 strategy jar? What are those typical takeaways that you learn from an audit like this? From my perspective, a few things that come to mind: opportunities, right, to use more of those tools to grow the business, discover those wins and successes that maybe have been overlooked to bring back to the team and call out and attaboys. And then 3, like those basic metrics, right, to work on and monitor, from the lead numbers to conversion metrics to open rates and more.
Totally. Yeah. There's always some light bulb or no-brainer moments. Like, we should totally build out an onboarding pipeline for our implementation folks. Or wow, that landing page is actually doing really well. Let's do another promotional campaign around it. Let's put some pay-per-click behind it. Let's schedule out some more social posts. There's stuff like that that always gets uncovered during an audit. Something that I see folks often forgetting to take a few minutes to prioritize and pin down is when things should get done coming out of this audit. So even if you're a small team or if you're a bigger team, you really want to try and say, hey, we identified these opportunities. Here's when we realistically think these should be accomplishable and by whom. If you miss that step of putting some accountability down and putting a timeline down, it's going to be really hard for those folks to prioritize that work amongst all the other stuff that they're doing. And without a timeline, it's just very difficult to get things done on a schedule. So I very, very, very highly recommend, even if it's just yourself, set some due dates, make sure you're very clear on who's doing what. This will help you get more of this stuff that you identified done.
Accountability, that last step, closing the loop, right? We all know it and fear it, but embrace it as well. It feels so good when you put things on a calendar and achieve them. So I appreciate that, Alex. And I think a ton of people echo your sentiment in saying that, where we have to do the things and putting a timestamp to it gives us that accountability. I love it. So, all right, cool. Well, now I think let's put on our scenario hats and let's dive into a HubSpot scenario in this case. An existing manager, in this case, the scenario, an existing manager wants to explore all his tools, the current usage and opportunities to expand. So this is a historical HubSpot account that you just inherited as the marketing director. Congratulations. Your team uses all 3 hubs at the pro level. Very nice. But you need to understand each piece, the functionality and interplay. Alex, where do you start?
All right, so this is going to be a big list. This is something you could definitely pause and go through and kind of just stop this and go into your account and check each thing. But this could be treated as a whole audit in and of itself. So I'm going to list out things like 14 things that I'd recommend. The first thing I'd recommend is to check your users, billing details, renewal cycle, who gets notifications, that kind of stuff. Second thing I recommend checking is to check your data, contact, deal, and company data. What's not used, personas, lifecycle stages, owners, check all those things. Third thing, you want to check your deals pipeline and pipeline automation. Is there pipeline automation set up? Does it need to be set up? Fourth thing, check your workflows. What's on that shouldn't be on? What automation doesn't exist that needs to be built out? Fifth thing, check your contact record layout. Are the right properties on the sidebar by default for new folks joining? Do most contacts have companies? If they should, you are in a B2B business. Sixth thing, I need more fingers. Let's see. Sixth thing, check your marketing to sales handoff process. How does that exist in HubSpot? Do you guys use lead scoring and a workflow that when leads automatically hit a certain score number, they're transferred over to a sales qualified lead lifecycle stage status? Do you guys use something else? But check on that process. 7, check your website performance and traffic analytics. Do you have a content strategy? Do you have pillar pages? 8, check your contacts, company, and deal views. Is your team set up to easily switch between the actionable filters of your data? Setting up views and filters is huge, and I see a ton of HubSpot accounts that don't actually have these set up well. 9, check your lists. Any cleanup needed? If you have hundreds of lists, do you need that many lists? Are you missing some lists that would be helpful for creating smart content in your emails, or making it easier to email the right segments of your database? 10, check your email performance. HubSpot's got some pretty cool email performance measurement tools. Let's see, we'll do 11, check your dashboards. Are there actionable dashboards that are being emailed regularly to the important stakeholders? Is there a marketing dashboard going to your marketing team? Is there a sales dashboard going to your sales team? Are you getting any other reports emailed to you at the cadence that you need them emailed? 12, are you using the other sales tools? Are you using templates, meetings, sequences, documents, all of these tools? If there's a use case for them, are you using them? 13, are you using conversations? It's an under-leveraged tool in HubSpot. Is there an opportunity to use it? It can be very powerful, especially if you're doing any sort of one-to-many customer success management or support. And lastly, check your social performance. Do you have posts scheduled? How has your performance on the social side increased over time? All that good stuff on the social side. That's just just a list there. You can run through that and use that to audit the account.
That is amazing, Alex. That's a portal audit in a nutshell, in a condensed version for our audience to get a shot of. So like Alex said, take your time, go through, you can pause that and use that like an audit, but wow, that's a lot of stuff, Alex. And I'm sure we could add even more, right, to the list to be even more thorough, and feel free to, but what are your final thoughts kind of on this audit?
Yeah, I think the last thing I'd like to mention here is that there's really no time like now to do a HubSpot audit. Even if you only run through a few of these things, you're really going to walk away with some actionable next steps for you to do that will make your HubSpot account better. And incremental improvement beats hesitant perfectionism all day, every day. So a little bit better every day is so much better than just saying, you know what, I'm going to do this later. I'm going to, wait to make my HubSpot account perfect or whatever it is. Just small fixes over time. It's going to be huge. I'd love to hear from you guys. Let us know if there's anything you think that we missed. I'm sure there's some stuff here that you guys do that would be valuable for other people to know about as well. Let us know how your audit goes too. What are the conclusions that you came to? What practical next steps did you walk away with? I think we all learn from each other best, and that's an opportunity for us to get more out of this too.
Agreed. Well, thank you so much, Alex, for walking us through this portal audit. I know I can agree with the rest of the community saying that we're excited to go out and give this a try and find some amazing insights to take back to our teams and let you know how it goes too. So thank you so much for this portal audit and have a great day.
Awesome. Have a great day, everybody.